House That Jack Built is directed by Lars von Trier and is LVT's serial killer movie. Matt Dillon plays a serial killer named Jack, who murders his victims across 12 years, in a structure that recalls the one of Nymphomaniac. There's a very interesting duality that could be studied across these two films. Now I say two, even though Nymphomaniac was released across two films, Volume 1 and 2, but it was originally made and intended to be one long film. The duality of Eros and Thanatos is extremely present in Freudian psychoanalysis, Eros being the thrive for life and sexuality, and Thanatos, the drive for death and destruction. And one could easily call Lars von Trier's last two movies as his Eros and Thanatos films. The film almost functions as a parody of a Lars von Trier film, or at least the perception that one can have of a Lars von Trier film.
What was it one's mother used to say about not getting into cars with strangers?
Well, I wouldn't know what your mother said.
You might as well be a serial killer. I'm sorry, but you do kind of look like one.
A great many critics have been extremely concerned about von Trier's stance on women, about having a female protagonist where a series of horrible acts will be enacted upon her. This is literally pushing that to the extreme, with our main character, a man this time, committing horrific, sadistic acts of violence to women. Now, I'm not sure if this film is a fuck you to those criticisms, or an acknowledgement followed by a giant cry for help, or even both, but I loved every second of it. The film appears to be extremely personal, which I guess could be extremely troubling. Our protagonist Jack, who could be a surrogate for Lars von Trier, is a person who wants to build something beautiful, a perfect house, and is sidetracked into committing these horrible acts, which he also views as an art form, but everybody else finds repulsive, ultimately leading him very literally down to the gates of hell. All of this is done with some fantastic self-examination, crazy metaphors, and thankfully, very little in the way of a backstory. One of the things that really worked against Nymphomaniac was all of the parts that were set when our main character was younger. The relationship with her father. It was chock full of bullshit high school level character psychology, where this happens to me as a child, ergo this is why I'm acting this way as an adult. Volume 2 worked for me much better than Volume 1, where it went all crazy gonzo. There's very little backstory in The House That Jack Built. Maybe a few brief glimpses into his childhood, but not much, and nothing that's trying to justify his behavior.
If you feel like screaming, I definitely think that you should. You call that screaming? Help! 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 Yes! Help! There's a murderer in the building! It's Mr. Sophistication! Help!
Lars von Trier's new film, The House That Jack Built, is a sick, twisted, sadistic film that's also gloriously funny. Maybe one of the best comedies of the year. It's a little too long. I think Riley Keough's scene could be totally excised, no pun intended for those who've seen the film. It's not bad. It's actually a fantastic sequence. But because we've just come out of the absolute darkest sequence, one that I'm not going to spoil, but I'll just say breaks one of the biggest taboos in cinema, it loses a lot of its punch, and maybe the film at that point was ready to head into the final act. I really love The House That Jack Built, and to be honest, I'm fairly disturbed with how much fun I had with this film, because I don't know what that says about me as a human being. Probably nothing good. I don't think a lot of people will come away liking this film, however. I think the initial reviews were pretty negative. It is very disturbing, and it's extremely dark, and frankly, the only kind of people that will actually enjoy the film are sick, demented, twisted, messed up people like myself. Most normal, well-adjusted human beings will be appalled by the film and think it's absolutely atrocious, and I fully understand that, but yeah, I can't pretend that I didn't love it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's on my top 10 by the end of the year. But I really think it's von Trier's most introspective film, which is, again, highly disturbing, and yet kind of touching. and yeah, it's probably my favorite film of his, certainly his most intriguing, and one that I wholeheartedly recommend if you can stomach it. If you're a Von Trier fan. If you're not, I don't think this is a good place to start, and I don't think this one is going to convert you. But if you are already on the LVT hype train, then this is going to be like catnip. So check this out when it comes out in your area. Thanks very much for watching the video. This is the part where I lay down on my knees, implore, beg, and pray that people like and subscribe, because that's how this bullshit works. Thanks again, and until next time, see you soon. Bye.